I have been very busy working on getting all of the things potted up in winter sowing containers. I was very lucky. I had some friends and the Starbucks provided me with some additional jugs to get all of the things finished. I'm going to do my last 5 or 6 jugs today, which would bring me to a total of around 220 almost. And I've already learned a couple of lessons, so I thought I would share those with you. And then I'll show you at the end of this video how I've got everything arranged outside for now. But I had thought on the ones that I did in nursery pots that I could just put the bags over, tie a knot, and put a rubber band around, and that would be sufficient. What I have learned is that the rubber bands, even in just a month or two, are failing. The rubber is just not meant for being out in the elements, and so a lot of them are starting to snap. They're losing their grip. So as I'm finding containers where the plastic has come off, I am using duct tape to secure them and rechecking that the holes are in a good location and then putting them back outside. I will show you completed ones that I've done, and then I'll show you what the arrangement looks like. So this is one of the containers that I've already fixed up. I'm putting duct tape in 3 or 4 places around. Something else that I've been doing, because the bags are somewhat doubled over, to make them fit better, I am in places putting a little bit of duct tape with the sticky side out on the inside, and then putting duct tape over top of that in the hopes that that will keep that second layer pulled tight so that the holes don't get off kilter. But by keeping the 2 layers on there, I'm hoping that that gives a good amount of flex. And I can see, like, here's one that the rubber band has come off, but it was still tight. So I need to take that in the garage because I can see the holes aren't staying very open, and I want to check to make sure that this is getting sufficient rain when it rains. There are some of my containers that have already started to get a few little sprouts. I hope you can see that. This is a container that has painted daisies. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be sprouting this early when it's still February, but our weather has been kind of crazy. And let me show you a couple others that have some sprouts. So I hope you can see that. This is a type of blue wheat, and oh, that's not helping. And it has some really large sprouts in there. So I don't know if I need to take those out soon and plant them. But some of them in there are already starting to get kind of tall. Several of my poppies containers have started to sprout as well. Some of them have quite a few little baby sprouts, so I'm not sure I'm getting a very good angle here. This one might be easier. So you can see there's a whole bunch in there. Here's one that I've tried in an empty clear cup, and it has a few sprouts. I've also got some cerise queen, I'm not sure if I'm saying that first word right, yarrow. Boy, it has super gone to town in this container. And over here I have what's called money plant or honesty, and I've got at least one of those that's actually a very nice size little sprout baby. So some things are starting to already pop up. I hope they don't get killed when we have a freeze, because this is Ohio. It's only like February. It's going to happen. Right now we're in what a lot of people sarcastically will call false spring. It's been kind of warmer in the daytime, sunnier, which I love to see, but it's Ohio, so more than likely we're going to have some more really cold, yucky weather. And then look at this Feverfew. Holy smokes. Now this container is a little bigger. I think it's a at least a gallon size. Let's see if I can find what it says. Yeah, it's a gallon size container. And wow, definitely going to need to do the hunk of seeds method with this one when I go to plant. No way am I separating all that out. Hunk of seeds method, and I'll be trying this in a couple months probably, so I will make sure to film that, but or record, I guess. Basically, you would divide up your container sort of like as if it was a pie or brownies, and cut little sections and then pop those, take that as a whole chunk or a hunk and plant that wherever you're planting, just as a whole hunk with several little seedlings, and the strong will survive, and or they'll just kind of grow all together and kind of have the look of one plant. So it looks like I'm hopefully going to definitely have some feverfew, as long as we don't get some kind of super cold temperatures that kill it off. This is all an experiment, so whatever happens, happens. And here we have some daisies. I did a couple of different types of daisies. These are something called a Madonna Shasta daisy. I also did a type called Crazy Daisies. They also had sprouted and looked very similar to this. I did a couple containers of each of these because the containers were smaller, but they were pretty tall, so I was hoping that it would work out. So far, obviously it is. And then I put them together on this tray so that they were close together to help with a little bit of that insulating, as opposed to just setting these individually out. I did drill a bunch of holes though in this tray. It didn't come with holes. I did that on purpose because I knew I was going to want to use a couple of these trays for other things. So I just used my drill, 1/4 inch, drilled a bunch of holes so that things could drain, and that way nobody will be sitting in water. And at this point right now, what I'm doing is fixing these up because, again, the rubber bands have failed or are starting to fail. So I'm taping everything down. In some cases where the soil looks like it's a little closer to the top, I've added a landscape spike, and I just got these off of a landscape staple. I just got these off of Amazon, and I'm just sticking one of these right down in the center of the container if it looked like there wasn't much room between the top of the soil and the top of the container. Some of them where it looks like there's a little more room, like this one, I'm not going to bother with the landscape staple, excuse me, because these are daisies, and daisies tend to be, from my experience with having daisies before, just buying them at a nursery or a big box store, they're very, very hardy. They spread like crazy depending on the variety. So these, even if they get to a point where they're reaching the top of the container, I'll just take the plastic off. If I'm not able to go ahead and transplant right away, they can just live in here, and I'm sure they'll be just fine. So here you can see where I have collected part of all of the containers. In this area, I have the jugs that I first started with back in early January, as well as a few of the nursery pots that I initially started with. And these have been sitting here. I've sprayed them a little bit with some water, but overall they've just been hanging out and doing their thing. And here's the rest. Altogether, 217 containers, and a mixture of types of containers with lots and lots of seeds. I think I figured out that potentially I could have near to 1,000 plants if things sprout like they hopefully will. So thank you for joining me here in Aunt Susan's garden.